Hi guys, welcome to Live Wild Outdoors. Today's video, we're going to be making some silhouette Sandhill Crane Decoys. I bought 2 dozen for a hunt coming up in Texas in a few weeks, but I decided I wanted to make my spread a little bit bigger and add a couple dozen more. So instead of spending the money, I've decided to make my own. So let's get to it. In this video, I want to give you guys a detailed process of how I made these decoys and give you my honest feedback. I started out by using a 3/16 inch laminate plywood because it's about the same thickness as the decoys. I carefully laid them out on this piece of plywood, fitting as many as I could in one sheet, and then I traced them with either a pen or a pencil. Since I wanted to make around 2 dozen and I could fit 11 per sheet of plywood, I doubled up on the plywood. That way I could make my cuts go twice as far. I screwed the plywood together using 2 screws on each outlying decoy. That way when I cut them apart, they stayed together. Looking back, I wished I had used either wood glue or some hot glue on each decoy to keep them together. That way the screw heads wouldn't have gotten in the way when I made my cuts. Once I had them into more manageable pieces, I was able to do the more fine and final cuts. This was probably one of the most time-consuming parts of the whole project and probably took the most attention to detail. There we go, there's the first one cut out. Got 2 of them here. Let's keep going. Okay, now that we've got all of them cut, we've got 22 silhouettes sitting here. The next thing we're going to do is just lightly sand the edges so they're not sharp and splintery, even though the splinters may help in the realness to make it look like feathers. Those splinters will all get knocked off eventually and the paint will come off with them. So we'll knock down all the corners and rough edges with some sandpaper, and we'll hopefully be turning this look like this. For this I just used 80 grit orbital sandpaper folded in half. But really you could use any grit sandpaper. You could also use a sanding block. Now we get into painting the body of the decoys with the lightest color gray. Although I wished I had used a roller, the spray paint worked well, especially for getting all the edges and cracks and corners. Here's a list of all the paints I used, and I'll put a link in the description below of each one. Just to be clear, I have never considered myself to be an artist, nor do I feel like I'm super creative, so bear with me on the paint job. Next, using the medium gray paint, I fill in the body using a line technique to act as maybe feathers and just give it a little added dimension. These are the different brushes I use to give it the different shapes and textures, especially the round one on the left I used in a rolling motion to kind of give it the feather-like look. Having a decoy in front of me to reference definitely helped when trying to match the shapes and patterns of the feathers. Using the medium gray, I give it some feather-like streaks, followed up by the light gray, again in the rolling method, to give it those feather-like look. Next up is the brown, again in that rolling feather method, referencing the decoy to make sure the brown is in the right spots. If I ever felt like I covered up too much of one color with another, I would just come back with that color and touch it up on top. Now using the dark gray, I spray around the back, the tail, and across the neck to give it a dark look to match the decoy. Now coming back with the light gray and maybe some medium gray and adding some feathers over the dark really gives it some depth to the whole body. Now for the head, I cut out some templates using some file folders, both for the beak and for the red on the head. Because there are 3 types of decoys, alert, sleepers, and feeders, I had to cut out one of each for the beak and the head. And there's the finished product. Not too bad. Time for the assembly line. And before I forget, please hit the like and subscribe button down below, as well as the notification bell. It really helps out my channel and helps me bring you guys more content. Don't forget, you have to do the other side to all of them, but you get the point. Now for the legs, I had some extra hog panel lying around that I thought might work perfect for that. To paint the legs, I just did black where they were going to match the body, gray, and then the feather colors on top of that. Now for the fasteners, I used wire or conduit fasteners and spray painted them gray to match the body. It really doesn't matter what color you use because it's going to camouflage in with the feathers. The same goes for the screws. To attach it, I put one fastener on either side, and now after using it, I wished I had put one on the top to keep it from sliding up and down. One thing that I didn't show you is I had to grind down the end of the screw on the other side so I didn't poke myself. Now that we're all done, it's time to take them to Texas. So we were hunting ducks. All the cranes picked up off the field behind us and flew right over us. Unfortunately, after that day, the weather moved in for 3 solid days and we didn't see any more cranes fly for the rest of the week. So we'll have to wait till next year to see if they actually work, but I'd say side by side, they look pretty darn good. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. At the beginning of this video, I told you guys I would give my full and honest feedback. So here it is. How much did it cost? How much time did it take? And would I do it again? I think the answer to that is no, I probably wouldn't do it again. It cost about $100 to make these 2 dozen, and it took about 10 to 15 hours of time to make them all. So I could just go out and buy 1 dozen for about $125. So I saved a little over half by doing it myself, but I think in the long run it would just be worth it to spend the extra money and buy them from the company. But I'll leave that up to you guys.